Okay, we're going to wait one more minute to see if anyone else wants to join. Another minute, if anyone else wants to join, and then we will begin. Half a minute to see if anyone else wants to come and join us. Okay, everyone. So first of all, let's smile. We have the schus to learn Torah. A lot is happening, but we're maminim, b'nei maminim. We faced a lot worse. Mirz Hashem is in the first time. Hopefully it'll be the last time. A lot less than what our ancestors had to face. So Baruch Hashem, I'm just looking to see who wants to come. So if my eyes wander a little bit. So I want to share with you, people are coming, 1 second. I always have to look down to see who's coming. I have to find a way to allow people to enter without being in the waiting room, but well, I'll work on that in Mirz Hashem. So it's Parshas Vayakel and Pekudei, and I want to share with you a very famous sikha of Rav Lichtenstein for Vayakel and Pekudei. I would call it one of the top 5 sichot that I've heard from Rav Lichtenstein, and has a lot to do with the coronavirus and all the messages we're trying to gather. Again, we don't have specific messages. We don't know specifically why, but we want to think about it and process it and think about what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. So this is such a famous sikha of Rav Aaron Lichtenstein that I actually have a friend of mine who's a Rav, and when he went to a shul, a well-known shul in the community, please mute your, guys, please mute your, whoever's listening, please mute your mics. Whoever's listening, I have to find a way to, I'll do this. Okay. So I have a friend of mine who went to a shul, and it was his praba. Praba is when you try out for the shul. And it turned out that the praba week that he was in that shul was Parshas Vayakel Pekudei, which is the worst week you can get. Like, what are you talking about Vayakel Pekudei? Yisro, Kitisa, Mishpatim, Veschanan. But he got the praba. What did he say for Parshas Vayakel? I'm just trying to see who else wants to come in. Okay, so for Parshas Vayakel, he shared this sikha of Rav Lichtenstein, and evidently he conveyed the sikha of Rav Lichtenstein so well that he got the job. So what's this sikha? So a lot of people are a little bit uncomfortable with the attention paid to the technical details of the Mishkan. Why do we need to see? I'm just going to try to see if I can, just getting used to this technology, so I apologize. Okay, there we go. Please, whoever's joining, please don't forget to mute your mic. So there's so much detail on display in Parshas Teruma and Tetzaveh, measurements and artwork and craftsmanship and engineering. For most of us, we don't get them yet. We're not that skilled in finding out how many reloads there were, and how many clips there were. Guys, again, we need to mute their microphone. Please mute your microphones, okay? So why do we have all these descriptions in Parshas Teruma Tetzaveh? Let the Torah, instead of wasting all those psukim, let it just write that Betzalel and Eliav, that they performed and they crafted the Mishkan as Moshe had instructed them, as a Kadosh Baruch Hu, Kasher Tziv Hashem. Teruma Tetzaveh could have been collapsed into maybe 20 psukim. The materials, the vessels, Kasher Tziv Hashem. Yet the detail is so elaborate and so picayune, and the Torah doesn't waste words. They're mesachtas that are built on an extra letter. And here you've got 2 parshios describing craftsmanship, engineering, architecture, math that many people just don't get. It's hard for us. But that question becomes even more exacerbated when it's repeated in Vayakel Pekudei. It's one thing for the Torah to dedicate all that lavish detail in Truma Tetzaveh. It's important. It's a Mishkan. Kodesh Baruch Hu wants to make a statement. But in Parshas Vayakel Pekudei, we've seen that already. So why is the Torah once again describing issues that the Torah could have simply summarized in much more brief detail in Truma Tetzaveh, and at the very least, the Torah could have just written in Vayakel Pekudei that they implemented the Aron and the Menorah and the Shulchan as HaKadosh Baruch Hu had instructed Moshe before the Egel, at least according to Rashi, Truma Tetzaveh is before the Egel, now it's Vayakel Pekudei after the Egel. So why is the Torah not just instructing and delineating once, but repeating it a second time and wasting, so to speak, all those words and all that information that could have been allocated to seemingly more important issues rather than these long lists that for most people are difficult to crack, and then the Torah repeats it a second time. So Rav Aaron told a very long story that night. It was a beautiful story. He spun a romantic story, a tragedy that ended up a bit romantic. It was really classic Rav Lichtenstein. And for many people that didn't appreciate him, they appreciated his mind and his logic and his lectures, but they failed to appreciate how delicate he was in understanding human sensitivity and relationships, and this was a perfect example. He told the story of a young couple that fell in love and planned their wedding, and as part of their planning for the wedding, they visited a furniture store to choose the furniture to furnish their home. So they go through every room and they luxuriate and indulge in every decision. Because for them, the decisions about which furniture to choose are not just logistical, which sofa, which couch, which chair, which table, but they're iconic, they're resonant, because they're imagining their relationship flowering and blossoming. So when they pick out the sofa in the living room, their imagination runs wild. They say, well, this is the sofa we're going to host our guests on. This is the sofa our children will play on. This is the sofa our teenage kids will share their thoughts with us on. This is the sofa we'll one day meet our sons-in-laws and daughters-in-law. So the furniture becomes a portal to some deeper romantic flight in which they're planning their future together. And when they think about the kitchen furnishings, say that they're imagining all the breakfasts they're going to share and all the havdalahs they're going to recite together. So the selection process isn't just technical, but it's a flight of romantic investment. And it takes them a long time and luxuriate and they indulge and they get to the bedroom and obviously they're thinking about the more intimate parts of their marriage. And there they take a long time and they're very, very deliberate and very, because it's not about which colors and which fabrics, but it's about engaging in a joint emotional ride that they're about to embark upon. So they tell the furniture store salesman to keep the furniture on hold, that the Ritz Hashem to deliver the furniture the day after the wedding when they move into their apartment. Today people take apartments before they get married, but let's assume for the sake of the story, they're waiting for the actual wedding. And the night before the wedding, Aluva Kala Shemazana Tachas Chupasa. This Kala betrays her husband. The wedding day comes, and all that excitement and love and trust has been replaced by bitterness and hatred and animosity, and no one's talking to each other. And finally, 2-3 hours before the wedding, they call off the wedding. Everyone goes home. The sides aren't talking. They all storm out of the wedding hall, not looking at each other. The friends are shocked. They don't know what to make of it. The food is all wasted. And now there's a very, very cold war that breaks out between the two families. And someone calls the furniture store and cancels the sale and the delivery of all that furniture because no one's there to pay for it because this marriage is grounded. Months and months pass, and of course, the hatred and the anger and the distrust and the hurt start to fade. And slowly, the two families start talking to each other, trying to bridge. And finally, they decide that an uncle of the bride is going to speak to the groom and see if he can make some headway and see if he can remind the groom of how much love they have and how silly this indiscretion was. So he speaks to the groom, and begrudgingly, the groom agrees to sit with this Kala. Can you imagine Rav Lichtenstein describing this scene? And they sit together, and they're sitting across the table from one another. And finally, the uncle of the Kala tells the groom, look, I know that she betrayed you. I know that it's hurtful, but you had such deep love, and she's not that person. It was just a momentary indiscretion. And so finally, the chassan agrees to meet the kala, and you can imagine the tension and the uncertainty that is regnant, that dominates that meeting. And slowly but surely, meeting after meeting after meeting, they're able to tap into the love they felt for one another and to somehow reschedule the wedding. And now the planning for the wedding is very different. It's filled with uncertainty and distrust and not hatred, but half-hearted investment. And then a week or two before the wedding, they have to revisit the furniture store and choose the furniture. But now it's a whole different story. They just go from room to room. We'll take the floor model. We'll take whatever's available. Yeah, because it's hard to face the hurt and the pain and the anguish that each of these selections now cause, because what was once an opportunity to think about and enjoy their joint romantic ambitions now is filled with hurt and uncertainty and pain. So they just say, go through everything. Give us this, give us this, give us this, give us that, give us, just give us the bed that you picked out for us last year and give us the fabrics. We'll just take that and whatever's available. And for Rav Lichtenstein, this story was a parable for the difference between Truma Tetzava and Vayakel Pekudei. Truma Tetzava is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's first offer of marriage and our first round in which we're considering building our joint home. And in Truma Tetzava, it makes sense that the details are provided in such picayune and detailed and deliberate fashion because we really are in love. And everything's pure and everything's innocent. And we believe that this is a marriage that will last forever and that will never be betrayed. And every little furnishing and element is an act of love and joy and emunah. And think about entering Eretz Yisrael, building the Beis HaMikdash, ushering in utopia, appointing a Jewish king, changing the world, living with HaKadosh Baruch Hu forever, appreciate it. But then we failed and we fell and we betrayed Rebbeinu Shalom. And at that point, Moshe interceded, that uncle, and he davened on behalf of the Jewish people, and he staved off elimination, he prevented annihilation. And now it's Vayakel Pekudei. Now the second marriage is coming. And you'd think that HaKadosh Baruch Hu would say, you know what, just build the Beis HaMikdash like I told you, and we would say, we want to build it like you told us. We don't want to engage as deeply. But the lesson that HaKadosh Baruch Hu delivers in Vayakel Pekudei, and the lesson that's so important is that our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is so unique. When human beings hurt each other, human beings can forgive each other. But it's very hard to undo the scars and to undo the pain. There's always pain. There's always scars. We'll never be perfect. People of great generosity of spirit can forgive and forbear and look past certain things. But when people are hurt and the human heart is really singed and pain and seared with pain, it's very hard for that heart to recover. So you can look past the infractions and the crimes if you try to rebuild a relationship, but it'll never be with the same innocence and the same beauty and the same excitement that it once had. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is different, and our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even though we betray him and we fall and we fail and we wander, we're not just looking to atone our sins. We're looking to rebuild our relationship as it once was. The word I would use is to reestablish innocence, to return to that innocent stage beforehand. And this is, of course, how we daven Chadesh Yameinu Kikedem, the end of Parsha, the end of Megillas Eicha. We're not just looking for rejuvenation, rehabilitation, but restoration of a lost innocence. We've wandered, we've lost, this world has ravaged us in our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but Hashem is offering us the possibility, not just for improvement and atonement, but to go back, to turn the clock back, and to be as we were before. We lost so much of who we were and our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it's worth all the investment of Parshas Vayakel and Pekudei and all the extra psukim just to demonstrate the symmetry between Truma Tetzava and Vayakel and Pekudei. Hashem is just as excited in Vayakel and Pekudei as he was in Truma Tetzava. After the fire still burns. After the fall, you can go back. And Hashem wants to create a palindrome in which the two sides, before the Egel and after the Egel, exact same. Just like we recite there in Yud Gimel Midos, Hashem kel rachum v'chanun. Why are there two Midos? The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says, kan lifnei chet, kan li'achar chet. And there are many messages about Lifnei versus Acharei, but the primary message is it's the same. Just like you had Rahmanas from the Rebbeinu Shalom before the Chet, HaKadosh Baruch Hu offers you the same relationship after the Chet. So what does this have to do with Corona and virus and a world health crisis? It's clear that our world has spiraled, and it's become fast, and it's become global, it's become confident. Whatever, everyone's smart enough to connect the dots, and it's clear that this is a chance to take a pause, take a step back, and think about how far have we spiraled? Where are we? And I think a nice opportunity for everyone now that we're living quieter situations with less noise, less action, less people, less travel, less food, less entertainment. What part of your lost innocence you want to recover? Now, this is a share, obviously, that 30-year-olds and 50-year-olds and 60-year-olds will respond to in a way that maybe 18-year-olds may not, because the closer you are to your childhood, the less innocence you've squandered and the less experience has stripped you of that purity. But you're all old enough to think about who you were before, who you were as a bar mitzvah boy, who you were. And it's not about you, it's about society. How are we being drawn into society that is taken because the powers, the cultural powers, are so persuasive, and they're so dominant? What have we become, and how can we go back? And the message of Vayakal B'Kude is, it's not just about moving forward and improving, but going back and recovering innocence. And we talk about people today have so much experience. There's a great, I'd have to Google, I think it was William Blake. I believe it was William Blake, a great romantic poet who wrote songs of innocence and experience. For example, he wrote about little boys who were chimney sweepers in ancient England, or in 18th century England, and they're going off merrily to their job with their brooms and their tins to collect the soot, because the main source of heating in Britain was chimneys, and they had to clean the chimneys. It was very ugly and very unhealthy. But they didn't know that yet. They were going off on their way to clean the chimneys. They were singing and dancing and happy. And then the songs of experience, you've got these sick boys that are coughing from all the inhalation, all the smoke, and all the hard work, and all the cold, and they're mourning, lamenting, and these are called the songs of innocence and the songs of experience. And you would think that, well, it's the songs of experience that he wants us to hear, not the songs of innocence, because they're naive and they're about to fall into this terrible condition. And why would we? But so much of William Blake's intention is that we lose our innocence in this world, sometimes in very tragic and very harsh manners. But it's that innocence that we're meant to recover sometimes. So we're living a much more innocent and simple life for the next couple of weeks. We're not going too many places. We're not meeting too many people. Our food will probably be a bit contracted. We're going to eat more limited food. But what price did we pay for the extravagance and the richness of our world? And how do we reach that balance between richness, opportunity, and expansion, and purity and less? And so, for example, those of you who live in out-of-town locations, and you know who you are, I'm seeing some of your names, you look at people who live in more resource locations, so they have more resources, but you pay a price for being with so many resources, so many people, and so much action. So that's the Sikha of Lichtenstein on Vayakel Pekude. I'll put a link on my Facebook page, the same post that publicized the show. I'll put a link to the extended version. I think I spoke about it a couple of years ago. It's nice to think about how this opportunity to take a few steps back can help us not just recover, but also think about what do we want to take that we've lost in our societal herd or rampage, that maybe we can take a step out of society and rethink the equation, so that we're able not to reject society, chas v'shalom, not to reject the modern world, chas v'shalom, but to be able to balance it and embrace and advance its opportunities and its potential without becoming too addicted and intoxicated. So in Yom Hashem, we'll try to do this every night at around 6, depending upon the schedule. I'll try to post it. And keep smiling, keep your ruach, not in a way that's trivializing or that's callous to what's going on. Take it very seriously. But Kodesh Baruch Hu is our source of simcha. And as Rav Lichtenstein said, if you look at the shir I gave before Shabbos, the only fate worse than suffering is when you're not with a Kodesh Baruch Hu. So that's what Bitachon boils down to. Anyway, so I'll see the boys who are listening from Gosh tomorrow at some of the quick 10-person minions, and a little bit after, those who are joining from afar. Whether far in Eretz Yisrael or far in America, stay safe and stay healthy. And most importantly, it's important to smile and raise the spirits of everyone around you. Kol Tov.